Hey, Theo, this is Greg from Indiana. So me and my friends went out and caught your show. Dude, you did phenomenal. I actually just wanted to call and tell you, so I was at work the other day, and I just been kind of in this, rut at work. It's not a bad job, but I just really want to get out of it. So I was catching up on some of your podcasts, and you said something that, resonated with me. You know, you said, nothing changes if nothing changes. I thought about it, and I went home, and I applied for a job I'm probably not qualified for, but I was like, I'll just take a shot. And the next day I get a call from them. I have the interview. It goes well. She says she's going to set me up with in-person interview. Never even had it. They emailed me a few days later, and I got the job. So now I'm going to be doing a job that I think I will appreciate more and enjoy more, and I'll be making double the money that I'm making now.
Gang. Bro, that's awesome, man. That's really great. Congratulations for trying something new. Yeah, it's crazy to sometimes think what can happen if we decide, I'm going to see what happens when I decide that I am qualified. What happens when I decide for myself that I'm going to do something different? You know, one thing, Jocko Willink was in here last week, and one thing that's really been pressing with me that we discussed is staying motivated. And I have been finding myself more motivated, even when I do not feel like doing something, to do it. That my brain doesn't dictate how. My brain does not get to choose. My brain can feel a certain way, but it's not going to choose how I behave all the time. I just can't let it do it anymore. I'm going to have setbacks, I know. But if I'm feeling bad, that doesn't mean I'm doing bad. That doesn't mean I am bad. That doesn't mean that I can't still take some action. Because, nothing changes if nothing changes, man. We'll sit around forever wondering, well, what if I was a dog catcher? Would I be the best? What if I was what if I'd worked on at a avalanche, searching for avalanches and predicting them, or what is it called, a geologist? Who would would I be able to do it? You don't know until you say, I'm gonna take action. Nothing changes if nothing changes, man. And I'm not preaching at you. I'm just I just want to remind you, because I've spent a lot of time in my life sitting around wanting things to change, and not being able to make them change, and not thinking I could. And I wish somebody had told me that earlier sometimes, that in order for something to change, there needs to be change. I'm proud of you, man. I'm happy for you, bro. That's very exciting to hear. And that makes me feel good. It makes me feel good. And thank you guys for coming out in Indianapolis. And I needed to hear that somebody came out and had a good time at that show. Because that one and the Detroit one were the two this week that I felt, I don't know. I just felt a little disconnected, man. I think it just breaks my heart sometimes that something like as beautiful as human beings are, that we're dying because of something as dirty and preventable and sad as drugs and as addiction. It just breaks my heart. It just breaks my damn heart, bro. It breaks my heart. And just makes me want to work harder to be part of the solution in the world. It just makes me want to take care of myself so that I can just so I can be there for somebody else if they need it. Not even know if I can be, but just so that there's a chance that I can. You know, it just makes me sad, man. But knowing that there's people out there who are making changes and who are coming out and enjoying the show, that's exactly what I need to hear from me. And thank you for sharing that with me, brother. I've had times in my life where I've thought too much about regrets and stuff in my life, right?
Yeah.
And we've talked about that some in the past, like looking in the past too much, right? Or
Right.
attaching myself to the past. Has there been anything along your journey that you've kind of regretted? And then how do you deal with regret?
I mean, individual choices and mistakes, yeah, but ultimately you learn from those. So, like, no. Because, like, even the regrets, the bad things or the stupid things, you learn not to do bad things or stupid things. You know, all those things are beneficial in some way if you can get through them. You know, if you like did something that resulted in someone's death or something horrible like that, yeah, it'd be a terrible regret. But I've been very fortunate that hasn't happened. But the dumb shit that I've done or the bad mistakes that I've made, they've taught me. You know, you learn. Like, that's why failure is so important. Like, failing and fucking up and making mistakes. It's very important. That's how you learn. That's how the bad feeling that you get from something that you shouldn't have done or wish you didn't do or wish you did better. Like, especially failing at something where you half-assed it and you just feel like a fucking loser. Like, that just teaches you. It teaches you to get your shit together.
Well, you have such a good ability to learn from those things. Some people, I think, kind of it's just like it gets repetitive for some people.
That's dangerous. Yeah, it's dangerous to dwell on past mistakes. Because people sort of define themselves by the worst moments that they've ever had. And if that's the case, like, some people are stuck in high school. You know, they're stuck in failures that they had, like, when they were first getting jobs, and they always think that they're a loser, and they don't like the feeling of failure, so they keep low expectations so that they never have to feel that. You got to get through it. You got to get through bad feelings. You got to get through failure. It's very important. And you get through it by just picking yourself back up and moving forward and going. But it's hard for a lot of people because that sting, they never get over it, the feeling of failure. And they don't have a good support system, like good friends. Like, having a good community of friends is very, very important, because you could feel like if you've been, a girl broke up with you and you feel like you're the worst, you're a fucking loser, like you're a piece of shit. But then you go out with your friends and you have a few laughs, and next thing you know, you're laughing and you're like, I'm all right. We'll be all right. And then maybe you meet a new lady. Yeah. Yeah. And she, like, picks you up and you're like, oh, we're going to be okay. And then you learn from the last mistakes.
Yeah.
That's life. It just, those feelings of failure are so hard. They're so hard to get over, and they overwhelm people, and some people can't get past them. And then every time some new thing comes up, when you have to rise to the occasion, you have to perform, you think about that time you failed, and it fucks your head up, man. You think, I'm a fucking loser, I can't do this, I'm going to fail, I'm going to fuck up, you know? Like bombing. Like, how many times have you had a bad set, and you're like, God damn it, I suck at comedy, I can't do this. I can't do this. I suck at comedy. That's just it, I just suck. And then you define yourself that way, and you got to get over it.
Yeah, I do notice, thankfully, you never have too bad in a row either, which is kind of interesting.
Well, you learn from that one, and you're like coming out guns blazing for the next show.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe it activates some senses in you. Did you feel like you learned that from somebody, or did you always just have that kind of intuition when it comes to that kind of stuff?
I think I learned it from martial arts, because you get your ass kicked, and like, you don't want to get your ass kicked again. You either quit fighting or you learn how to get a lot better, you know, and then you get your ass kicked in training, which happens all the time. And, you know, you learn from those mistakes. You learn, you know, like, maybe you were stationary too much, or maybe you telegraphed too much, or maybe you got tired and you haven't been doing your cardio. Like, those failures that you have from martial arts are so consequential, because you get hurt. Like, you physically get punished, and then you don't want that to happen again. So you got to be either quit or get way better.
I like that. And that's great for a lot of my listeners. A lot of guys, you know, or just, you know, a lot of guys, just trying to keep going in their lives, you know?
With everybody, in my listeners, your listeners, anybody who's listening to people, just
totally.
people out there.
Yeah.
That's why there's so many self-help books. That's why there's so many motivational documentaries and motivational Instagram pages, is because people need stuff like that. They need something. And generally, the best version of it is coming from someone who's experienced fuck-ups and got through it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. You know, you're like a kind of like a library. I was thinking about the other day in a weird way. You're like kind of like a library. You know, that's interesting.
How am I a library?
Because you just have all this information that's passed through you, and you're able to like kind of. You're almost like a cleaners at the cleaners. If you ask a question, then it goes and gets the information and brings it to the front, you know, and it's like wrapped up kind of. It's cool.
That's a funny way.
It's a nice skill, man. Because I was even listening to an old episode of ours, and there was information and like kind of suggestions and guidance you share with me in there that were still resonate with me today. So it's just pretty cool. I remember when I was young, I could not talk to girls. I just felt embarrassed. I couldn't talk to girls that I liked. That was the toughest part. I was just afraid. You know, I just had this thing built in my head that they hated me or that they just did not like me. And I remember one time, this girl I was just in love with as a child, I remember that I spit in her hair because I was so pent up with wanting to just tell her that I liked her maybe or something that I couldn't. So I just gathered every bit of genetic ability, liquid ability in my face and just deposited it onto her head one time. And I ended up getting suspended for that. Dude, I went through a time where I was so nervous to talk to women. The only thing I could use were like shitty pickup lines, you know, garbage ones. You know, they had the one, are you a polar bear? Because you just, you know, I'm a polar bear. I'm about to break the ice. You know, that garbage, you know, verbal. And then I used to have this one line. In hindsight, this shit is horrible. I was like, let's play Hiroshima. I'll lay on my back and you blow the shit out of me. So that was, but I mean, that's where I was. I was at a point where personally, I couldn't find a comfort level where I could speak to women. And how to get through that, I would find you have to get through it, and you're gonna have to practice. And what I would practice is listening. I'd practice listening, man. I think you could be thinking, because I personally used to think that I had to start the conversation every time. Sometimes you can just listen. Just listen. I mean, a lot of women, all they want is a man to listen to them and to care. And I think if you start with that, with the listening, then you'll eventually find spots where you can interject and offer something to the conversation, you know? And also, and you can just try things also. If you want to try little things to talk to a woman, I would try little things like, what kind of candy do you like? You know, shit that like a 5-year-old would say. Because all it's about is starting the conversation. You don't need to think or worry 3 or 4 steps in advance. Just say hello. My name is so-and-so, you know? Just little things like that are really the starters. And you have to get your self-confidence up. Because if you are thinking that women don't like you, then they're just going to sense that, you know? Because the thing is, they probably do like you. You know, they probably do. And you just have to find some ways to be comfortable around them. So comfortability will lead to communication. So if you can get to being comfortable, you're going to be in a good spot. Now, you also, man, if you get hooked up on the drugs and that, you're going to have to start weaning yourself off of that. You know, if the only way you can speak to women is at a rave on ecstasy, dude, that might not end well. You know, so I don't know if you need to put on some house music and suck on a Claritin or something at the house, you know, or start to wean yourself off of that behavior. So you can create some regular behaviors where you're actually, you know, communicating to women in a regular way, man. You know, and you can find a girl that you already know and it doesn't have to be one that you're sexually interested in. And just communicate, just listen, practice, bruh, practice. And also, you don't want to be in a spot where you just take any girl that will take you. And for years I spent time in that place where I would just, any girl that would take me, I would accept, I would take. Even if she didn't have some of my values or qualities or anything, I just felt so less of myself. And I'm not saying that you feel this way about you, but I felt so less of myself that I just felt like I wasn't worthy of someone who was good for me or who I was good for. I was just hopefully worthy of anyone. And that was not a fun place to be. And you end up with people that you end up with being in a match that's not a real match, because you want to end up, if you want to end up with a woman, and if you're looking for something long term, you're going to want to find a woman that's real. And if you don't always have to agree with girls, if they don't have your vibe, dude, then screw them. On to the next one, but just if you can get in your head that you have value and you have worth, which you do, bruh. You sound like a pretty legit dude, man. I'd probably go party with you, bruh. I'd probably do a couple bumps and put on a wig and let you practice conversation on me, But you don't want to end up with someone who doesn't deserve you just because you're afraid to feel like someone does deserve you.